All right, I'll let you know once it kicks in. And then we get to do this thing.
Love it.
Hey, 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 hey. I'm opening it up over here. Yep. We're good. I see it, Michelle. I see it, Michelle. I'm going to go
Yay!
ahead and tag Michelle when I can. So everybody knows we're doing this thing. Welcome to Coach Magic. I am so thrilled to have everyone here, whether you're watching live or you're watching by replay. We are going to have a powerful conversation today. I have the amazing Dr. Michelle Fynan with us. We are going to be talking about many things. And one of those areas we're going to dive deep into is loving yourself out of hiding. Let me tell you more
Mm.
about Michelle, and then we are going to go on in. She is a board certified clinical sexologist, a disabled sex doctor, licensed therapist, love coach, pleasure advocate, and international speaker. She's also a university professor. She does a lot of things. She's amazing. And she is today's guest on my brand new live show called Coach Magic. So she's going to talk more about her journey, her career journey, and how she eventually said yes to coaching, which is really how we've connected. And she's going to share some tips on loving on the parts of yourself that you may be hiding. And we want to witness you today because everyone has hit out at some point, hidden out at some point. And we're here to say, let that piece out and let her play, let them play, let him play, and
Mm-hmm.
really give yourself permission to be you. Michelle is a graduate of Magic Makers Coach Certification. This is our powerhouse program dedicated to helping you master the craft and the business of intuitive coaching online. P.S. Our next class starts next week. And this show, Coach Magic, is dedicated to coaches passionate about making a big impact and beautiful money working with the best clients. And Michelle is an example of that best client that you want to call into your world. So what we hope happens for you today is that you get inspired to take the next right step in your business and in your life. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Oh, thank you so much, Jenny. I'm so excited. So excited to
Yes.
be in your space.
I am so excited too, and I'm opening up. Like, yay! Okay, we've got some people tuning in live. I know we've got Belinda here. Hi, Belinda. Anyone else who's tuning in, let us know that you're here so we can say what's up to you. So, Michelle, wow, I'm tuning in here, going, where do we begin? There's so many things. Okay,
Mm.
so let's back up. How did you find your career path? I mean, obviously, you have an extensive education. You have so many labels, you have so many titles.
Mm.
How did you figure out, hey, I'm interested in being a sexologist, I'm interested in pursuing my PhD? Like, how did you figure all of that out? Because that's a lot.
Right. Right. It was a lot. It's been a journey.
Uh-huh.
Um, but I would say that really I've always been a helper.
Okay.
And it truly is my purpose in life. And I
Mhm.
know that because I was I was born to be a helper, because I was given this gift of at times needing quite a bit of help myself.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I know that I was born for this, and
Mhm.
that it just was me having to find it. So one of the reasons I need a bit of help at times, though we all do, right?
Mhm.
Was that I was born with a physical disability called osteogenesis imperfecta. It's a rare brittle bone disease. And because of that disorder, I've had like upwards of 35 plus broken bones, several major surgeries. I was in a wheelchair until my junior year of high school. A lot of mobility devices as I would be recovering from different injuries. And then even also just choosing to stay in my chair because I was afraid. I was just afraid. I'm like, I can't fall down if I'm not standing up. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, I'm
Mhm.
gonna be sitting here. But with that choice, oftentimes came sitting on the sidelines. And where it really kind of showed up for me, that idea of like not being in the game and sitting on the sidelines, was dating and finding love. It really affected the way I showed up in relationships. or lack thereof, because I wouldn't put myself out there out of
Mhm.
my own shame, my own fear, and those labels. Like you
Mhm.
talked about, labels can be a great thing to help us make sense of it all, but we could also have some that are stuck onto us by society or culture, religion, or other people that maybe we don't identify with or we're trying to rip off, but they're a part of us.
Mhm.
So that kind of ties in with what you said, where it's like loving all of these parts of us. And
Mhm.
that's really where my journey began into, therapy. I've been a therapist now for over a decade, and I really wanted to help people who really thought that love just wasn't in the cards for them. So it's really, those are the people I'm passionate most,
Mhm.
or I'm most passionate about helping, I should say.
Mhm. Mhm. So the people who felt like they're not good in relationships, they're not worth loving. Okay, let's talk about
Hmm.
that more. And Karina
Worth.
is here
Yep.
right now. Is saying she's so happy to hear from you and from being a part of this conversation. So, all right. So because you had that experience, so was that what you thought about yourself, that you couldn't be in a relationship, and it because of your physical condition? Like what? Talk more about that. What were the stories that you told yourself?
Yeah, and I love that you said the stories I told myself, because that's exactly what they were. People weren't really telling me that. I am very fortunate in that I really did not experience a lot of bullying or anything like that. My parents were wonderfully supportive of me, but there were like little things that I internalized, about, you know, I never had the sex talk. Well, now as a parent, I'm like, yeah, people, it's an uncomfortable conversation. That doesn't necessarily mean that like I wasn't brought to the table for this discussion because, oh, that's something that will never happen for you. But that was
Mhm.
how I viewed it, that there wasn't like a space at the table for me when it came to talking about relationships or sex or anything like that. There were little things where people would say, "Oh, any boyfriends?" or anything like that to other people that were around me. But then it was never a question that was directed at me. And that could have been from their own discomfort, or maybe the energy I was putting off of like, don't ask me, don't ask me, don't ask
Mhm.
me, because
Mhm.
people pick up on that, and it's so powerful. So those are some of the tapes that were certainly playing in the back of my head for quite some time. Quite some.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. So you go to college and you decide that you want to be a therapist. Is that what happened while you were in college or no?
No,
Mm.
actually. So I started college as an art student,
Okay.
a painter to be exact. Art
Mhm.
was always therapy for me,
Mhm.
and a lot of times I was laid up, and being in Florida, I'm a Florida girl. When you can't go in the pool during the summer with all your cousins because you're in a full body cast, that
Mhm.
really left me in a space of like learning how to go inward and bring forth something.
Mhm.
And that art was very therapeutic for me. My
Mhm.
parents were extremely supportive of like, go and be an artist, which is funny because many parents are like, don't be a starving artist. But mine were
Right.
like, this is who you're meant to be. And then I got to school and I took one psychology class and I could not get enough. That was that piece of me that, again, I was always a helper. One way that I made friends growing up as the girl in the wheelchair was to be a great listener. I realized very early on that people want to be heard. I
Mhm.
mean, and to be honest, half the time I was being quiet just because I'm like, I don't want to talk. I'm nervous. I'm super shy, which to know me now, it's like, no, you're
I don't
not shy.
I don't see that from you now, but I
You're
didn't know
not.
you then. But that's so
No.
interesting that you adapted this ability to listen. You realize when people like this, they just want to be heard. But there was
Right.
that piece of you that was afraid to speak up anyway because you associated perhaps you in this chair with do you have something to say? And do people even want to listen
Right.
to you? All right.
Right.
So you discover psychology and then you just dive in and you change your major and like, this is it.
No, ma'am. So as you mentioned, all of my juggling, I'm an expert juggler. So I'm like, we're gonna
Mhm,
go through with finishing the art degree. So I ended up
mhm,
with my BFA in painting. I got my bachelor's of science in psychology. And from there, I moved on. I got my master's in counseling in marriage and family therapy and mental health. And then from there, I worked with people who had some pretty severe mental illness, a lot of dual diagnoses, a lot of really my favorite work that just
mm,
being able to connect with them. And I was able to do art therapy with them
mm,
and bring that to them as a skill. But I noticed that for a lot of people that I worked with, there was sexual trauma history, and I did not feel equipped to support them. So I was like,
mhm,
I need to know more about this.
mhm,
And relationships had always been a thing for me because that was something that I wanted so badly, to the point where, your energy of neediness could be suffocating. And that's
mhm,
really something that I work with people on, because I had to navigate that in order to
mhm.
find the love that I was looking for.
Wow. So then you pursued your doctorate. How does that work? You choose an area of study. What exactly did you study when you were pursuing your doctorate?
Yeah, so beautifully enough, this doctorate program in clinical sexology was quite literally down the street from where I lived, which was
Mhm,
just wild in and of itself, because it's not a common, thing.
mhm,
Um, so I went and I decided, in speaking with the president, who was just a wonderful mentor to me, and he was like, well, you need to make a book. You need to use your drawings, and you need to make a book for people with disabilities. And I was like, no.
mhm, mhm,
Like, originally, there was a little bit of pushback internally, and I realized that although I'd done the work, the work continues, stay fierce,
mhm,
right? There were
mhm,
more layers of that onion of, I went from having a visible disability where I was using a wheelchair, to then I was no longer using any aids to assist me. And I could then blend into this invisible disability world where I didn't
mhm,
have to tell people about it, I didn't have to talk about it. And that really, once I got to college, that's where I was at. I no
mhm,
longer needed a walker. Um, and so I started walking on my own, and there was the hiding that could happen. So while I thought that, oh, I have processed this and I just love myself and that's what got me this love,
mhm,
there was still a very big part of me that didn't want to be associated with the disability community. So when he said that, I was like,
mhm.
Okay. And there was, hesitancy, but I really sat with it. And that's when I started really doing the work on me, which
Mhm.
I had been able to hide behind my work with others.
Got
And
it.
also the full plate of, which is, I learned through my trauma learning and research, that
Mm.
doing that is a trauma response, so
Putting
that
too
you
many
don't have
things
to.
on your plate, like just being overtaxed, overburdened, overbusy. Mhm.
Yep. Yep. So how can I just be way too busy to feel? And
Yes.
it'll be
Yeah.
great.
Everyone take that. And we have a lot of people watching right now. Hi, Nicole. That feeling of I've got too many things going on to feel. I
Mm,
absolutely did that. I mean, you know my story very well, but after my sister's death, it was just, I don't have time to grieve. And grief, it can come in many forms, whether it's the loss of someone that you love, or an identity, or a feeling of I'm not maybe going to be able to do this the way that I thought, but maybe it could be. I mean, there's so many ways that this might show up. But I want
mm,
everyone to really tune in and ask yourself, are you giving yourself space to feel? We need space to feel. We do. And it can feel a bit scary because you don't know what's going to happen when you actually feel.
Absolutely.
Are you going to break down? Are you not going to be able to show up for this thing that you have later today or whatever?
Yeah.
But when we start pushing it down, that's when I think that's when we move more into that hiding mode because we're
Hmm.
afraid to let
Yes.
people see who we truly are. How did you, like, what was your process of getting out of that chair? How did
Mm.
you release the wheelchair once you moved into
Yeah.
college?
So with OI, we'll call it that for short, with my brittle
Mm.
bone disease,
Mhm.
it's kind of on this weird like arc where as your bone is turning over, as you're growing,
Mhm.
there's quite a bit of fracture that happens. Then around puberty, as you stop growing, things tend to level out.
Mhm.
And then as you age, you get osteoporosis, which
Okay.
is where I'm at currently.
Okay.
So it's this wave, if you will. And
Mhm.
so it just happened that I had gone without some fractures for a while.
Mhm.
I was doing pretty well. Then, right when I got to college, I was in a car accident with my friends. I was thrown back in the wheelchair, and it was devastating for me because I had gotten a taste of what it was like to blend
Mhm.
in, and then
Mhm.
that was taken away. So it touches back to what you said about grief and loss, where I've really gone through this experience of like multiple times having to get back up again and get
Mhm.
back up again. And I had gone some time without having to do that. And it was like, it was not like riding a bike, Jenny. It was like
Mm.
extremely painful because of everything that I now knew I had over here in this life that I lost.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, but it was right back to the drawing board with physical therapy, pushing, um, support. I had wonderful friends that I met at college, and I'm friends with a majority of them today to where we talk like daily. And I've just been able to soak up all of these wonderful people in my life.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, I'm an extreme extrovert. I feed off of the energy of people. That's why COVID and this lockdown, which I personally am still experiencing because with OI, it's a collagen disorder and collagen is throughout your body. So it affects your lungs, it affects your organs. So well, I now have to be alone. And so 2020, again, the growth I had in 2020
Mhm.
is like nothing I've experienced before, where things were the ways that I was hiding, like
Mhm.
going out to bars and meeting up with people and, oh,
Ah.
let's use my powers of connection for evil instead of good and get free
Mm.
drinks, for everybody,
Mhm.
and let's just play and have fun.
Mhm. Mhm.
I was really wrapped up in that,
Mhm.
this new party girl mode.
Mhm.
And I had to take a seat for,
Mhm.
for a while. And then I
Mhm.
realized, like, ooh, are these things serving me? Like,
Mhm.
probably not. And that
Mhm.
hard honesty.
Right,
It's
right. So
rough.
2020 was a year of who am I really? Who am I really
Oh,
when we strip away all the distractions? When I can't hide
who
out in my
am I?
normal haunts, my normal
And
spots.
it was who am I really? And to the
Mhm.
point where I was questioning everything, questioning like, did you even go into clinical sexology because this is a passion of yours and this is what you're
Mhm.
supposed to do? Or did you just like to talk about that at bars? Like,
Uh-huh.
who are you?
Mhm.
And then it was like, no, no, I am passionate about this. Okay, we're okay.
Mhm.
Like, let's do some
Mhm.
journaling on this.
Right.
Let's finally use those tools that
Mhm.
but you've never used for yourself. I also never spoke about these things, never shared my experience. And it was always this thought that, like, I'm a therapist, I should be able to handle it, you know?
Mhm. And some
Um,
therapists aren't very open about their lives. I mean, I'm not a
Yes.
therapist, but I have a lot of experience going through therapy.
Yes,
And I think that's part of of training for a lot of therapists.
it
Maybe it's kind of
is.
like old school training. I think there's like a new wave of therapists coming through where you know nothing about the therapist. You're like, I remember I had a therapist in New York, and I remember at the end of our work, I was like, can you just tell me if you're married? Like, can you tell me if you have kids? Like,
Oh,
I just a
yeah.
little bit. I've told you my whole life. I just know a little
Yeah.
detail. Right. And so there's
Yes.
some of that's like that old conditioning, the old conditioning. For you, it's like someone who is differently abled, someone who,
Mhm.
is this or that, or a therapist doesn't share these things, or a therapist looks like they
Yes.
always have their shit together, or a therapist looks
Yes.
like, all of it. And then 2020 was the year when we said, okay,
Yeah.
we can't hide under these supposed to's anymore, because this isn't even supposed to be happening. And so
Right.
the thing that we're experiencing right now hasn't happened in 100 years. So the vast majority of us have never gone through this before. And if we did,
Right.
we were babies. And so here we are. And then for you, I've really seen this evolution with you and you choosing to really come out from hiding and to
Mm.
share your point of view, to do a lot more speaking. You came through. Karina's commenting, yes, like no more hiding, no more hiding in those distractions. Yeah, under all the masks, we're taking the masks off, even though
Oh,
we have to wear the masks, to go into places. It's just a very
right.
interesting time.
Yes.
So, talk about how you decided to, with all of your training with the therapy and the therapist and the sexologist, and why you decided to really move into this realm of coaching and call yourself a love coach, what that has allowed you to open up to in terms of the type of work that you do and how you work.
Yes. Well, a lot of that shift really has dealt with me being home and still wanting that connection. I'm I feel like virtual is where it's at, especially for my people who I am called to serve. Um, and some of those people have disabilities, and accessibility is a thing. I was just talking on Clubhouse. I was doing a room all about dating while disability is present, and people were sharing that like one of the big hurdles is like, okay, I want to go on a date with you, but I can't drive. And now it's like, I don't want my mom bringing me. Like, I'm 38 years old. Like, this is a thing. And so people were sharing their concerns. So, accessibility is huge to me, inclusion is huge to me. So, I really wanted to be able to serve more people. And you can do virtual therapy, you can.
Mhm.
But like you, I love this connection of being able to hear other people's stories. And with therapy, we are creating a sacred space where we don't want to put a lot of our stuff there. We want to hold this container where people can,
Mhm.
you know, we can reflect back to them as a mirror of what they're
Mhm.
bringing to the table.
Mhm.
But because I really long for those connections of also teaching as a university instructor, I like to share and teach and, do psychoeducation. And that's a really great space in
Mhm.
coaching.
Right.
Um, and being able to, I love diving deep,
Mhm.
with people, and you can still do that in coaching. So
Yeah.
being able to shift into virtual relationship coaching, virtual intimacy coaching, it also allows me to work with people anywhere that they are, and in conjunction with therapy as a wonderful
Mhm.
support. I love
Mhm.
teams, teamwork, as you know, it makes the dream
Mhm.
work. So
Mhm.
it's just fantastic to be able to work together and create support systems for people.
Absolutely. And so you joined our Magic Makers coach certification the last cycle that we had. What was that experience like for you? How did it
Mm.
help you become, this woman who's talking to me today?
Yeah. I was really, and I wanted to do it for a while. But I also knew about myself that I was having this imposter syndrome. And I was like, Michelle, are you like a degree and certification collector? because you don't feel like you're credible? Do you really need this? And for a while I was like, no, I don't need this. I could do this. But then, you create sacred containers of safety. And in order for me to feel safe doing the self work for myself, and that's really how I looked at this certification program. It was like, I'm doing this for me. I'm not doing this to, you know, I'm just doing it for me. And I really had never done that, which is shocking because I am so pro therapy. I'm so pro support. And that really speaks to the fact that of that unworthiness that was hiding deep down, and I'd hidden it really well, you know? And I think we all hide things really well. We operate like 95% out of our unconscious beliefs, our unconscious systems, and that was one of them for me. And it really took me realizing, I saw a quote, or maybe it was a meme, I don't know. Memes got me through 2020, I will say that. They were therapeutic.
I'm
you
with
know
you. Mhm.
So I saw this meme or this quote that said, even something along the lines of, even the most skilled heart surgeon cannot do surgery on themselves. And I was like, see, we need people, you know and you, just in working with you for years now, I felt safe and I felt ready, and you mirrored that to me, in where you are at, like that whole meditation you do of like where you are on the mountain. I was like, I want to be where she's at, and you were skillful at guiding people to where they want to be. So it was a no-brainer. I'm doing it. There were no blocks this time. So, and it was so worth it.
You were
So
an
worth it.
incredible part of that group. And I love what you said, the sacred container of safety, and the piece that really, I just felt so happy for you. And I want everyone to take that in. And hi, Kelly, she's tuning in now too. I'm just doing this for me. It's like when we can give ourselves permission. I recently signed up for a program, and I signed up on the last day it was available. We need to be real. Sometimes this is just what it is. You're like, okay, yeah. So I do it too. Sometimes I'm like, I'm getting in the right way. Other times I'm like, hold on. Same thing. I'm like, I don't need this. I already know this. I'm good. And then you realize, you get to that point, you go, but I want this. I want to do this. I don't want to try to do surgery on myself. It's not like I don't quote know enough. I want this experience. I want to give this to myself because I want to be held through something. I'm going through a metamorphosis right now.
Yes.
And that metamorphosis is going to be so much more spectacular and sustainable if somebody else can be there in with me, whether it's a coach or whether it's a group of fellow travelers on the path. And so that's really how I design all of my programs. And I'm so glad that you came in. Belinda says, hiding in plain sight, physician heal thyself, really profound and true for all of us in different ways. Belinda was in our most recent class too. Everyone, if you haven't checked it out yet, magicmakerscoach.com. We'd love to have you in our upcoming class. Michelle's a prime example of the incredible type of leaders we have in our circle. We have therapists. We have a lot of like psychotherapists, massage therapists, yoga teachers, former corporate executives, artists, healers, nutritionists. It's like all of you. The key that I love about coaching, and that's why I loved your story with all your different educational pieces that you then clicked in and said, this coach one is going to take you to a whole nother realm. We also have a lot of people in the fitness world. Anyone who's trying to help someone live better. It's like the helpers. Once we click in that coach piece, that's when we realize the work can go so much further, because now we learn those building blocks required to have an online operation. What you said, Michelle, especially when it comes to inclusion, the groups that we're passionate about serving, you need to understand how to do this, how to set it up, how to speak in front of groups, what tech tools you need in place, how to get people to sign on and work with you, to hire you one-on-one or in a group format, how to really set yourself up for success so that, whether you're working from home, like Michelle and I are, or if at some point you want to have an outside of your house office, which you can
Mm-hmm.
do, that you can design your business around your life. If you have young children like Michelle and I have, you can say, okay, here's what I'm going to do for my business, and it's going to click in around what I'm doing with my kids. If you're homeschooling, you're at home
Yeah.
learning, or they're out doing their thing and you're shuttling them to different activities, that this can be yours, but you
Mm.
have to really say yes. You got to, a lot of this is kind of the theme that we've been talking about, is coming out of hiding, saying,
Yes.
I want to do this. I am going to be a coach. I'm going to be a, I mean, I think with coach, there's just so much flexibility within that, which I'm so passionate about helping women tune into, because I believe that a key to our future and a key to our freedom is our ability to make money, period. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't apologize for that, because this is it. I mean, for a long time, we didn't have the ability to do this. For a long time,
Right.
women didn't have their own money. Even if it was our money, it didn't belong to us. And
Mm.
so it's not been that long that it's really, quote, our money, that it's technically ours, it's legally ours. But for many women, they are way behind their earning capabilities. And when you step into this path of a coach and really understand how to do this thing online, your potential just goes to a whole nother level. And a lot of it, and just shout out to Michelle, y'all. She's just joined our mastermind Glow. Belinda, who's here right now, will be excited to hear that, because she's in our upcoming group as well. This is where we all need to expand our minds. We need to expand our minds about what is possible for
Mm.
someone like
Mm-hmm.
you. What's
Yeah.
possible for a coach? What's possible for a therapist? What's possible for someone like you? And that is the thing, that's an inside job. I help my clients really open up to this. You're going to push your edge on this, but this is something that you will not hear me shut up about, because I believe it is the key to our future. The more women who know how to make money and do incredible things
Mm-hmm.
without money, the better this planet will be, the healthier this planet will be, the more inclusive this planet will be, the more
Yep.
beautiful and healthy this planet will be. And so this pathway of a coach, whether you come into Magic Makers coach certification or another one of my programs down the line, this is what I'm here to help you do. Okay. Couple tips, Michelle, before we wrap up today. If people are really hiding right now, and they have some shame around something, or they feel like I don't fit in, or I can't, they're making up these stories. This is the story they're telling themselves. How can they get out of hiding? Like, what are some things, if they
Mm.
start feeling that anxiety or that old story, that tape running, what are some
Yeah.
things they can do to move through that?
Yeah. One of the things that is just so important that I found is, and this was me through and through, I would try to brain my way out of things. I would try
Mm-hmm.
to think, I would try to figure it out. I would put so much pressure in the thinking and the thinking, when really there was such a disconnect to my body and feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And this is very common for people who have disabilities, because we become skilled at dissociating from our bodies so that we don't feel pain, or, whatever. It's a survival mechanism. It's a beautiful one. I hope that I continue to keep it, but I need to learn how to feel when I want to, and maybe be able to turn it off in extreme circumstances
Right.
only,
Only.
instead of turning it off all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So really being able to get back into your heart and into your feelings. And you made a great point about what's going to happen if I feel. So, okay, that in and of itself can be scary, especially if you've developed all these ways to hide. And if one of them is that full plate, because then it's like, well, I can't cry now. I have a meeting in 2 seconds. Oh, well, I can't cry after that because then I have a conference or whatever it is. And then it just keeps being pushed back and pushed back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is especially true for people who are thinkers. If you're in these businesses where you're super successful in business, but then you're noticing, like, I can't, in my relationships, I'm not connecting in the way that I want to, that can clue you into this concept of there's I need to get back into the feeling. So really just being honest with yourself, recognizing that you did this to protect yourself for a really good reason, and to thank that part of yourself for doing that, because you did it to get through what you had to get through, but maybe it's no longer serving you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are afraid of what's going to happen, like, oh my gosh, if I cry, will I ever stop though? I know that that was one of my thoughts. And I used to pride myself in not being a crier, but that was only because I told myself, like, you're too much already. Like, you can't also be the girl that cries at a drop of a hat. Like, you just
Mm-hmm.
can't. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it's so therapeutic to cry and let your body release that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what I work a lot with men too, because of what society has told them about being men and emoting. So really, if you need that container to find someone who can hold that space for you, it's really so beautiful to have, and to know you're worthy of the support.
You're worthy of the support. Absolutely. And that is what you provide to your people. Michelle, how can people get in touch with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, so my website is www.drfynan.com. It's DRFYNAN. I'm also really addicted to Clubhouse these days, because as the extrovert, it lets me connect and feel people's energy through their voice. But then I also don't have to get dressed and do all of this, because it's a complete audio
Exactly.
platform.
I know.
So let me be real, I'm loving it.
You're loving it. So
Loving
you're
it.
over on Clubhouse. I
On
see you
Clubhouse.
also on IG,
Yep.
Instagram, and then we're here on FB too. Okay, so
Yep.
drfynan.com. Anyone's on Clubhouse, go check her out there. I know you're very active there, and that's so awesome. Y'all are going to see
Yes.
Michelle out there even more, because we're going to do some powerful work in the mastermind that I'm leading called Glow, which I'm so excited. And I wanted to hop on one point before we wrap about the power of crying. This path is intense. And so all you coaches out there, your leaders, you're going to cry sometimes. And that's a beautiful thing. And I love what you said, that it's hard, when our plates, quote, are full, or when we have, you and I are both parents, you and I connected over last weekend. It was the anniversary of my sister's passing on Saturday. And normally that would be a day that I would cry, because I just feel her so much. For the last, pretty much since I moved here to the Berkshires, I have a tradition of going to Kripalu, which is this fabulous place.
Yes.
And it's closed. And so I usually would go to Kripalu on the anniversary of Julie's death, and I would have a massage, and I would just have this day, and I would eat, and no one's asking anything of me. I'm just there for myself. But I couldn't do that this year because of COVID. And so I had a beautiful day on Saturday. It was really special, but I really didn't have any space in there to cry. And so and I didn't cry. I felt very joyous and grateful. The next day though, I watched Saturday Night Live on Sunday, because I'm, 43 and I can't stay up. I can't stay up anymore. I used to just get going at 11:30. I'd be like just going out, when I was in college, my early 20s,
when my husband
11:30,
first met me,
we're just going out. Now I'm like in bed asleep. So I watch Saturday Night Live on Sundays, and I was watching Nick Jonas, who I really don't know his music at all, but I appreciate his energy. He's got this thing going. And he had this song. It's either called This Is Heaven or Feels Like Heaven. Heaven's in the title. It was one of the two songs he performed. And I watched the performance, and the tears just came. And it was my kids, and I think it's important that we let our kids see this too, because my kids sometimes get nervous. They're like, what's going on? Are you crying? They get concerned, but I want them to see crying is normal. It's natural. The tears, that salt is from the sea. This is a powerful part of being human. We come in crying, and hopefully when we leave, there's a lot of people crying when we're leaving, because we've made such an impact. And so it just was this natural, where I felt the energy of that idea, the music, the vibration. I felt her, and the tears just came, and I felt so cleansed. And then there I was, and I was able to reach out to my aunt and have this really beautiful conversation about Julie. And it was just, I want everyone to take that in, because especially when you see social media, sometimes it can look like a highlight reel where everything's just going awesome in everyone's lives. And like, you're the only weirdo who feels like crying one day. That's not true. And this
Right.
work to really get on this path and who you're meant to be as a coach, as a leader, as a transformational teacher, it is going to require all of you. And there will be those days where you just need to cry. And sometimes you're going to cry for what you're leaving behind, kind of that old you, the one who used to hide out, the one who used to believe that you didn't deserve this or that you couldn't do this thing because you don't need help or you don't know. This is a whole new chapter. And so, Michelle, I thank you for being here on Coach Magic. You're
Thank you.
incredible. This was a very powerful conversation. Thank you to everyone tuning in. Thank you for all the beautiful comments. Again, go check her out, drfynan.com. Go check out what we have for you in the coach certification. If you know someone who's a right fit for this, send them this link, magicmakerscoach.com. If you know someone who needs to hear this conversation, share this episode. All right. Thanks everyone for being here. Much love to you. Keep making your magic and know that you belong here and there are people literally looking for your help right now. See you next time. Bye, y'all.